Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us again this morning. Let everybody kind of join in that are in the waiting area, and then we'll get started. Hope everybody has their tea or coffee today. Have a relaxed conversation today about staying selling while social distancing. So a couple more seconds here and we'll get started. All right, again, thank you everyone for joining us with Tea for Tom this Tuesday morning. Today we have staying selling while social distancing. It's a big topic right now that we thought would be warrant of a 30-minute discussion here with you. Today I have with me again Tom Armitage and Matt Ford. Matt Ford's the president of SiteSeeker here and also leads the sales team. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Tom, and we can get started this morning.
Definitely. Thanks, Linda. So this topic came about from Matt and I and the rest of the team putting our heads together and trying to figure out the most appropriate tactics to drive leads during the current situation. We wanted high impact tactics that would be worthwhile and beneficial right here, right now, to try and help you solve the problem of filling the pipeline in the near future. And considering the fact that we know that there's difficulties and challenges right now with trying to fill that pipeline because your potential buyers might be hesitant to be spending right now. So you need to work harder to try and fill that pipeline, but also because of the fact that you might need to be reallocating dollars, right? If there's travel budgets that are frozen, if trade shows are canceled or being postponed, there's dollars that are now being freed up that you need to reallocate towards initiatives that are going to drive leads right now. And that's why what we've put together are these 5 ideas, which we're going to go through very briefly over the next 25 minutes here, and ultimately a package that we're calling the 90-day sales survival solution. And what we want to do is go through each one of these, and if you have more questions after this, we'll be happy to answer them. So we'll start with paid ads, and we know that advertising is essential right now, and it's in a lot of cases the first thing that people end up wanting to cut because it's the first thing that comes to mind when they look at where dollars are leaving the building, leaving the company. But right now is when you need to really be focused on advertising, spending it on the right platforms, and making sure that you have the right audience, you've identified the right audience, and you're staying top of mind amongst that audience, right? And visibility awareness ads should not be discounted right now, because if people are hesitant to be spending right now, they still need to be seeing you, they still need to be aware of you, they still need to be aware of your products, because this phase that they're in, even if it lasts 45 days, 90 days, it's still a consideration phase. They're not completely shutting themselves off to their normal role. They still need to be out there considering what it is that they need to buy. So seeing you, seeing your brand, seeing your product is going to be very important. So there's a number of platforms that you can invest dollars in. It doesn't necessarily need to be the one that you've already spent dollars in the past, right? Consider Facebook video ads, Instagram ads, Snapchat, OTT like Hulu, Sling, Vudu, all the different streaming-based services, because we know people are spending time at home, investing their time on a lot of these platforms. Think about Google display advertising, image-based advertising. Think about YouTube advertising. Any sort of video advertising right now is going to be really hot because you can get a lot of those impressions and really penetrate the market, penetrate your the market that you're going after at a really good cost, because it's CPM, it's cost per thousand advertising model, so you can get a lot of impressions for that. After this period ends, after you've kind of built that remarketing audience, built that audience of people who have seen and engaged upon your material, you then want to really be focused on driving the leads at that point. And that's where Google search ads in particular comes into play, because Google search ads are really, really great with focusing on driving leads, driving conversions. Matt, tell us a little bit more about Google search ads.
Yeah, it's certainly a tactic I'll dig into, but just a quick story. As salespeople, we are still reacting to this. Some people reacted 6 weeks ago. Some people reacting slow, and some people haven't reacted yet. So, Google Ads is just one of those tips. We had a client 6 weeks ago that said, hey, we've got 4 canceled trade shows. We've got 8 more that are probably going to get canceled. We're saving a bunch of money, but guess what? We don't have any leads. Help us, right? And so a lot of the things we're going to share today are the things that we help that company put in place. And guess what? Through all these digital strategies, they had the best March ever. All right, so these things can work. It's reapportioning dollars, and I hope today is to give you some ideas on how you can pivot as salespeople. So, relative to Google Ads, we'd suggest if you're venturing into Google Ads for the first time to pursue search ads, which is going to appear above organic results on a search engine result page. It's a quick way to get some exposure, to get traffic, to get leads. You can list your phone number there. You can list a whole bunch of things. You want to have people click on those ads, take you over to a landing page, which we will talk about a little bit later. You can target your audience based on keywords, demographics, and refine that over time, and that will slowly get better. And the beauty of Google Ads is that you can measure everything, and you can adjust things over time. And so it's very flexible. You can adjust your spend, see what's working and what isn't, and make those adjustments. Tom, you mentioned YouTube ads. That's a growing trend. A lot of people are spending their ad dollars through Google on YouTube ads. And so, moving into the second element of video marketing, some relevant stats out there. 72% of consumers prefer to learn about a product or service through a video. It's how we consume content today, right? 92% of marketers are basically saying this is an important part of our marketing mix. We are going to represent ourselves through video. And on average, we're consuming over 100 minutes of video content online each day. So it's becoming more and more common. In fact, we're consuming 5 times the amount of bandwidth from a data standpoint than we were 5 years ago, right? The workday is still 8 hours long, right? But the amount of bandwidth from a gigabyte standpoint we're consuming is 5 times more, which means we're consuming more video, right? And so what's happening with video? Again, it's becoming the way to introduce yourself, right? The handshake is in question. You've seen it on the news. People are saying, well, we're not going to be shaking hands anymore in the future. We're going to be wary of that. It's 18 months before we have a vaccine, before we're going to shows, where there's going to be 10, 20, 30,000 people there. Those things are in the distant future. So what are we going to do in the meantime? How are we going to get in front of people and introduce ourselves? Video introductions, video is going to be the new normal. So, I know you've got some additional thoughts on video, Tom, and how to get personal with video.
Yeah, it's not enough to really just create an about us video. And that's not what we mean any longer when we talk about video marketing. I think that's probably where we were 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. But, you throw up an about us video and say, we're involved in video marketing. That's not what we mean anymore. There needs to be, keeping quality in mind, but you need to produce more types of video content so that way you can leverage it across your different platforms, whether that's on your website, on specific landing pages where you're driving your advertising traffic to, across your social media, email marketing, and sending it out directly to prospects so you can engage with them on a more personal level. So we're talking, videos that are created that are specific to each of your products or your offerings, different packages that you've put together, individual case studies to show the actual value that you've provided to past customers. So that way, when you send it to a prospect that's very similar in the same industry as the customer that's already bought from you, it's highly personalized. There's also ways that you can get even more clever. There's software out there like Hippo Video and Vidyard, where it's kind of like marketing automation in the video world. So the software itself, you can pop in parameters like name, company, different pain points, different areas of personalization, and the videos themselves will end up being generated that are specific to the parameters that you've put in. So if I sent this out to Matt Ford, it would say, I could be holding up a sign in the video. It would actually say Matt Ford in the video. It would say Site Seeker in the video where I popped in company name. So these sophisticated software are getting much more clever with being able to put these videos together, so that way when I send it out to prospects, it's highly personalized, and it's going to increase your open rates within your email. It's going to increase your clicks and your views on the landing page, and it's going to ultimately increase the success because they're going to feel like you've put that video specifically together for them. So if I'm putting this, I'm going to segue now into email marketing. If I'm putting these type of videos, I'm putting this type of content into an email, I can always embed it. It's going to really require them to click on it and be driving me to a landing page or on YouTube or wherever it is that I'm hosting that video. But when we think about email marketing, it's such an important part of your marketing arsenal, because these are concepts that you've grown your database around, and they're people that you already have connections or relationships with. So you have to take advantage of it. It's commonly known as, you know, the marketing tactic that drives the highest level of ROI, because it's so inexpensive to hit send on an email. But that's also why it ends up getting abused so badly. So you need to really respect the rules to email marketing to make sure that you're seeing really good stats, really good metrics, and at the highest level, at the most important level, making sure that those emails are successfully being delivered to your inboxes. So how do you keep deliverability at its highest level? And there's some tips that I can offer in order to do that. You need to make sure that you are, the ISPs, the internet service providers, are making sure that they're respecting your IP address, the one that you're issuing the email out from. So if you're sending out massive amounts of emails and you're getting tons of bounces and tons of unsubscribes, it's going to reflect very poorly on your IP, and you're going to ultimately get blacklisted. So in order to try and build that reputation, build that authority around your IP, it's a really good tactic to start out with small lists of people that you know you've recently engaged with, that it's going to end up, you know, opening and clicking through on that email and building the reputation of that IP, because they're going to respect the numbers that your system is seeing around those opens and those clicks. So build the domain authority around your IP. Second, you're going to want to authenticate the email address that you're sending the emails out from, and you're going to do that at the domain level through DKIM. It's just a acronym used, and what it's going to ultimately do is make sure that the email that you're sending the emails out from is associated with the domain for your website. So that way it avoids spoofing, because technically, you know, somebody could, we see this with spammers. They just make up email addresses, and I might think that an email is coming from Matt4 because it's just fabricated, it's just made up. It's not his email. It's not coming from him, but they're spoofing me, right? They're a spammer out there. So if I authenticate the email address at the domain level, the ISPs, the internet service providers, are going to know that that email address that it came from is associated with the website that it's coming from. In this case, it would be siteseeker.com, because that's where Matt's email is associated with. So they can put 2 and 2 together and know that it's an authentic email address. In the email itself, there's also some best practices. Non-spammy subject lines. You don't want question marks, exclamation points, different types of characters that can alert the systems and flag it and send it directly into your spam folder. You don't want to load it up with images and things that are hard to render, where the ISPs are going to flag that as spam. So there's a number of ways to increase the deliverability, because you can just throw the email marketing completely out the window if their email isn't even getting into the inbox in the first place, right? Who cares about open rates and click-through rates if the person isn't even seeing it in the first place, right? You gotta take deliverability into consideration first and foremost before you even get into those other tactics. So something that is a question that comes at our way quite often is, what's the best email marketing software? Because there's so many out there, just like any sort of software. And we've put in a lot of time and effort in recent years to try and identify the ones that work best for our partners. So Matt, I know you have a short list of ones that we use regularly for different partners based on their needs. So you can offer some tips there.
Yeah, I do, and I think we've used them all. I mean, the reality is, and I've been looking at reports, 30%, 50%, you know, is the estimate on how much more email we've been getting over the last 2 months than typical, right? And so there's even more noise out there. Yes, open rates may be going up, but open rates are going up because we're all at home, we're all standing in front of our computer, and we're just opening more emails in general. But guess what? We're getting 50% more. So as you know, as a percentage, who knows where that number is? But the reality is, you have to be different to get your email opened, right? And as Tom pointed out, first you need to make sure your email gets delivered. But one size doesn't fit all. There are lots of options for out there. Most will be familiar with Constant Contact and services like MailChimp. Free versions of those exist with, you know, limited ability to send certain amounts of emails, and they're good systems, you know, and you know, don't cost a lot or come with free versions. If you're looking at something on the low end, then MailChimp probably gets our vote just for some of the features and flexibility that it has. And as you grow and you've got thousands of emails, and you're getting into things like marketing automation and drip email campaigns, you should be considering tools like Sharp Spring and HubSpot, where you can build email workflows and, you know, drip those campaigns out and you know, segment your lists into groups and have different campaigns and different sets of emails going to them. If you are engaged in and invested in Salesforce, then their email tool is Pardot, and that's a little more expensive, but has proven to be a very robust and capable system that ties very nicely into Salesforce. So if you're at that level and you've got thousands of contacts and leads already in Salesforce that you're communicating with, then Pardot is probably the tool to use. But many of you may have small email lists, you know, and there's ways to build them, or whether it's going to the associations that you're connected with and downloading lists, going to that app that you were using when you went to that conference, and you can pull names and emails out of that and drop them into one of these systems. There are ways to build up those email lists and start communicating. But at the end of the day, your email list may be minimal, and therefore you have to find, if you're going to be successful in sales through this pandemic, you've got to find different ways to communicate to people and build those contacts. And one way, as we transition into element number 4 here, is to build out your connections in LinkedIn. And one of the great LinkedIn tools is LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which is a fee-based modern sellers way to target audiences and prospects and warmly engage with them. And so for $65 to $80 a month, you have the ability to buy into this LinkedIn tool and start to build out different groups of people, and you can search on a variety of different levels and ways to build out those target audiences. You can search by geography, by industry, the size of company, by the role of the person you're trying to reach, or by their title. And LinkedIn Sales Navigator at that level gives you the ability to message up to 20 people right into their LinkedIn inbox on a monthly basis. But as you do that, you still need to have good content. You need to have a good messaging strategy. So this is a tool that gives you the ability to reach people that may not be your contacts presently, but they're the types of people that you want to be talking to. So you can pay LinkedIn to have the system, build out those audiences, and then start your effort to message them. And it really is a great business playground for connecting. But speaking of connecting, Tom, I know you've got a very robust LinkedIn following. How do you suggest the group here build their connections through LinkedIn?
There's very few things that excite me more in this life than LinkedIn, which is the nerdiest thing that you'll probably ever hear me say. But LinkedIn Sales Navigator is extremely powerful, and I really like it, and the ability to drill down and start with 500 million users across the LinkedIn ecosystem and drill it down to the 50 prospects that are most fitting and most relevant to you it's incredible what they've done over the past 10 years and how they've monetized, obviously, but made this tool work for sales folks. But yes, the fact that as sales folks we're needing to reach out to people through this platform, and that the fact that they limit the amount of cold emails that we can send, email messages that we can send, it only simply warrants the need to build connections even further. So how do we build connections? Making sure that you have a really good profile is always the starting point. making sure that your title is up to date, your experience and work history in the past jobs that you've held are there, that you belong to groups, that you follow interests, that you follow, thought leaders in the space, that you have your past college or university that you belong to. Because you guys on this call are obviously in the sales field, or you probably wouldn't be sitting on this webinar. You know how the game works. You know that people want to do business with people. They find ways that you have a connection or an association or affiliation with another person, and you feel connected to them, right? Through something, whether it's you guys work together, or you have a mutual connection, or you went to the same college or university. So making sure that your profile is thorough, it's robust, it's rich, is always the first starting point. After that, making sure that you're joining groups and being involved in those groups, because that it assigns another affiliation for you to those people that are associated with that same group. It gives you guys some sort of mutual connection point. So make sure that you're participatory in those groups, that you're adding to the feedback, and as people create content there, react to it and engage upon that material. And you can find and meet people that are relevant to the field that you're interested in. Making sure that you're creating your own content is extremely important, because not only are you acting as a thought leader in the space, you're sharing your opinion, you're sharing your voice, but people are going to engage upon that material, and you can find new connections to reach out to through that activity. So when I go to create content, there's always second degree connections that end up interacting on the material that I've created. Because as first degree connections, people that you're connected to right now, as they interact on that material, it's going to be shown in the feeds of their connections, which are your second degree connections, right? Connection one, I'm connected, and a second degree is somebody that's connected to somebody that I'm connected to. So as second degree connections interact with your material, it's really great to follow up, look at them, check them out, see if they'd be relevant to your sales efforts, and reach out and make a connection point, because they now have seen you, they've seen your material, and it gives you a reason to reach out. So that's always a really great tactic. There's the ability to look at who's viewed your profile, and I love this hack. If you're using only the free version of LinkedIn, it's limited. You can only see a handful of those folks. If you're using Sales Navigator, you can see every single person that's looked at your profile. I always reach out and connect with people that have stalked me. I'm like, hey, you want to stalk me? I'll stalk you, and let's go ahead and make a connection. You obviously were interested in me. You were looking at me for some sort of reason. Let's just build that connection. I do an introduction that way. So there's ways that you can create content, get in front of more people, and build your connections on LinkedIn. As you build a greater following, it opens you up to more sales opportunities, and that's what LinkedIn is all about, and that's why it's a really beneficial tool. So those are the first four: paid ads, video marketing, email marketing, LinkedIn. And all of those activities, all those tactics are going to ultimately drive people to your website, to your landing page, so that way you can try and interest them around your product and your service. And what you want to take place once they get to your site is naturally to convert. You want them to pick up the phone and call. You want them to fill out a form. You want them to request more information. You want them to move forward with expressing interest in your brand, your product, or your service. And if you thought LinkedIn excited me, this is my ultimate form of excitement. Landing page optimization, baby. So what we talk about here is CRO, conversion rate optimization around a landing page. Here's a typical sales funnel, right? We put traffic into the top of the funnel, and as they read about the material, they are considering if they want to do business, they read about your products, they then ultimately give you information, pick up the phone, call, they convert, and that's the bottom of the funnel, right? Is that conversion point. So what a lot of companies, a lot of marketers end up focusing on is putting more traffic into the top of the funnel. Well, you can type to the next slide. So on the left-hand side, you can increase your leads by putting more people into the top of the funnel, getting more traffic to your site. And that's keeping in mind if your conversion rate is the same. So put more traffic in, you get more leads out. Makes sense. But what conversion rate optimization does is it operates under the impression that even if traffic remains the same, you can widen the funnel at the bottom and convert more people based on who already is coming to your site. And it actually results in the same outcome. It's just a different way of looking at driving more leads. Driving more traffic on the left-hand side, you're going to drive more leads. by widening the funnel at the bottom. So if we look at just traffic, if you double traffic, keep conversion rate the same, you're going to ultimately double the leads. Simple math, and makes sense. But what conversion rate optimization does is you end up putting best practices into place, making tweaks, making changes, A/B testing things on that landing page to improve the likelihood of people that are converting on the page, and that also doubles the amount of leads that you have. And what I like about it is you have more control. You have actually total control over these activities because it's all based on what exists on your page, and you can actually prove it through science, through testing, through research, what ends up working best on a landing page to drive more conversions. So I'm going to give you an actual example of what we did for a partner, because we wanted to put some changes. We want to implement some changes on their website. We wanted to do some development work, some coding work. We wanted to really build their website into a conversion engine. There was a lot of ways to navigate around, a lot of ways, honestly, to get lost on the site, and it was messy. And those are some of the worst pitfalls when it comes to conversion rate optimization, is having lots of different pathways and lots of different ways to get lost on a site. So over a 6-month period, they see 40,000 visitors to their site, and they get a 1% conversion rate. And that ultimately leads to 400 leads. 40,000 divided by 1%, 400 leads they're getting over that 6-month period. So we were pitching that if we were working together as a team and we were going to redevelop their site and put some best practice into play around conversion rate optimization, we were going to ultimately increase that conversion rate by 0.5%, 1.5, and that actually is pretty conservative because we were trying to play this conservatively. 1.5% is what we were going to end up driving the conversion rate up to. So based on that new conversion rate, that would take the same amount of visitors. This doesn't even take into consideration the fact that advertising is going on and that 40,000 should actually grow. We're saying even if it's still 40,000 over the next 6 months, based on the 1.5 conversion rate, we're going to now have 600 leads instead of 400. So if we take those leads, how many are actually going to the hands of sales? They actually throw out 50%, which is kind of normal, right? You got a lot of unqualified people that are filling out forms, but 50% are being engaged upon by the sales team. They're starting conversations with 50% of those leads. That's going to take it to 300 opportunities. Sales is now closing at a 30% rate. Pretty good. So of the 300 opportunities, they're now selling 90. So 90 closed deals. $5,000 is the average revenue per sale. That translates to $450,000. Previously, based on the old model, based on 1% conversion rate, they would have sold $300,000 over that 6-month period. That translates into $150,000 worth of additional revenue based on as small a change as 0.5% conversion rate. We increased by 0.5% conversion rate, and it translates to $150,000 worth of revenue. So it's monumental, the impact that slight changes in CRO can have at the very end of the funnel, which ultimately is at the sales point. And this goes back to changes that you can make, changes that you can control fully on your landing page to make sure that more people are converting when they're there. So Matt, can you offer some of those recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, the big takeaway for me on this topic is people make mistakes in digital advertising and marketing in that they try to get everything into an email or a blog or a tweet, and that's not the place to do it, right? That's the place to bring people back to this landing page where you convert them. And so that's the first mistake they make. The second mistake is they don't bring them back to a landing page, they bring them back to the home page where they can navigate anywhere, right? And they get lost in the website. And there's a stat out there that 70% of the buyer's journey is completed and they have been on your website and you don't know about it, right? And so the beauty of this landing page optimization is that you bring them to a really valuable page that's got a lot of good content on it, videos, resources, cases, whatever it is, and then you give them several opportunities on that page to convert, right? And because they want more information, right? So you give them that form to fill out, and now that you know they're there, now you can reach out to them and engage And that's the beauty of bringing everybody to that landing page and driving that conversion on that landing page, rather than make those mistakes and let them navigate around your site and you never know they're there. So listen, there's 5 great elements here that are a start for digital marketing programs, and we as salespeople face an uncertain future. What do we do? I was supposed to be at 5 different shows over the next few months, and I'm not going to any of them. So I myself have to pivot, have to change, have to adapt. We don't know when normal will return. We don't even know whether there will be a normal. We just don't know what the future holds for us. So what we do know is we're not meeting people face to face right now. We're not going to shows. We're not on the road. We're not going to meetings. So we have to embrace digital. And some of these tips are going to help. We've built some packages around these tips. And so our contact information is on the screen here. If you do have any questions and you want to chat about anything you've heard today or anything else relative to digital marketing, feel free to reach out to Tom or myself. And I think we're going to wrap up here, and Melinda, and take some questions.
Yes, if anybody has any other questions, please send them in. We did have a question about video marketing, if that could be targeted, and I did answer that in the chat. So for those of you that didn't see that, yes, video ads can be targeted, just as you can with display and search. The other question was around email software. Which ones do we recommend? So I know that you mentioned a couple of those, Matt. I put those in the chat as well, and we can include those in the follow-up email that we send out with the recording of this webinar, that you guys can feel free to share with your colleagues, anybody else that you may feel is kind of lost, if you will, with their sales approach and how to pivot in the digital realm that we now live in. So with that, we're going to wrap up. And like Matt said, if you guys have any questions, please reach out to Matt or Tom or myself, and we'll be happy to help you guys along. So thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Good.